Recently, I played 6 hours of Elden Ring Nightreign, and
Alright.
we were locked in for that entire time. This game is addictive, it's intense, it's way faster paced than I expected.
Really?
And I think
Okay.
it's going to be a hit. So let's talk about it. Our characters have just left the round table hold, and day one is about to begin. Your goal in Nightreign is to survive each day as a ring of rain closes in around you and your team. Then, at the
Okay.
start of day 3, you'll fight one of 8 major bosses using all of the randomized loot and buffs that you've accumulated over the course of your run. Now, every session you play in Nightreign is supposed to be somewhat unpredictable. You won't
Right.
always explore the same map, or receive the same loot, or
I like
face
that.
the same enemies. The one thing, though, that I found very predictable in every single one of my Nightreign sessions was this feeling of pressure. The pressure not just to
Okay.
survive, but the pressure to get stronger. Because if you don't get powerful fast, there's no way you'll defeat the final boss. You can kind of see that pressure in action here. These characters just
If that's the case, then the only thing I'm concerned about is if there's only like one or two directions to take. I would like to be able to use variety of weapons and playstyles without feeling the need to take a certain route. You know what I mean? So if I want to play with a bow, then I hope I can do that. It should be viable to use a bow, weapon, two-handed shield, whatever.
rested at a grace and leveled up and ran because the rain is coming and you don't
Oh.
have much time.
Okay. Got it.
In our
So, for me, having this kind of area that is closing in on you, it's not really my thing. I hope they have more things than just that. I hope they have some sort of campaign of some sort that doesn't include this. But
in our playthrough session, we
to be fair, though, it's called Nightreign. So
would have to make these split-second decisions about where to go and what to do, and most importantly, whether we had the time to do it.
okay,
So often it was a choice between defeating a boss and claiming its loot, or running away and living to fight another day.
right.
So many subtle changes have been made
Oh.
to the mechanics of Elden Ring as well, and all of these changes have been made in the name of speed and efficiency.
Good.
For example,
I like
you
that.
can now vault easily over objects and even enemies as well
What
to
the
get
fuck?
where you need to go. Gone are the days where you need torrent to get vault easily over objects and even enemies as well to get where you need to go. Gone are the days where you need torrent to traverse the map. Now
Right.
you can press L3 to activate
Wait, does he have bird legs?
a powerful
The
sprint,
fuck?
and you can also activate spirit springs on foot, which vault
The
you
fuck?
so high up into the air. Also, there's no fall damage in Nightreign, so from high places it's easy to
Yay.
justify jumping down and getting
That's nice.
to where you need to be.
Although that begs the question, does it really apply this pressure on you to make split decisions if you can't just jump anywhere? If the night rain or whatever it's called is closing in on you and you can't jump down, you have to find another way down, then you clearly made a bad move somewhere along the line that got you to this point, right? It doesn't seem like the pressure is immense, but maybe it is. Like, I haven't played it, he has. So, yeah.
Let's talk about the different classes, the different Nightfarers that you can choose to play in this
Okay.
game. This is the Recluse, a mage character that, like other characters, has an ability and an ultimate that you can use. They've turned the HUD off for the footage that they've given us, but I remember what these abilities and skills looked like, so I've drawn them, and this is where they are usually on screen.
Nice.
Your activated ability is on the left, and your ultimate is on the right. These and skills looked like, so I've drawn them, and this is where they are usually on screen.
this is where they are usually on the screen. So usually they're taking a third of the screen. Bad move. I don't like that. These things should be in the corner somewhere, about as big as this. Or maybe this. Not this big.
Your activated ability is on the left,
whatever.
and your ultimate is on the right. Both of these circles fill up over time, and when they're full, that's when you can use the
I really hope he means that they're in the corner somewhere, and not here on the screen. Like...
ability or the ultimate. Now, the Recluse has an ability that is actually much more complicated than the other characters' abilities, and I think they designed it this way because the Recluse is designed to be a backline character.
Okay.
In Nightreign, the spells you cast are tied to the weapons you pick up, so you usually only have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 spells on hand. So From Software has given mages another system to sort of micromanage while they're standing in the backline casting spells.
Cool.
Let me explain really quickly how it works. Basically, whenever an enemy or a teammate gets tagged by a certain type of damage, like fire or magic or holy, a little marker will appear on them, and then the Recluse can absorb that type of energy, getting a little bit of mana, but more importantly, filling out one of these small orbs. Then, when you've acquired 3 elements, you can unleash the Recluse's ability, generating a unique spell based on the combination of elements.
Okay, so does that mean that they're trying to make people build around it? So using 3 unique spells, 3 unique elements. I do wonder, or if they're trying to make, players work together. Might be the thing, but yeah, cool, I guess.
You've acquired. So a huge part of this character's skill expression is going to be understanding intuitively what these different combinations of spell are and whether you're in the right position to cast them. And this is just this character's ability.
What's happening?
They obviously have an ultimate as well, and this one is more straightforward. Basically, after a short delay, you can mark nearby enemies with this red tag, and once marked, if anyone on your team hits them, they will regain health and mana, which is incredible for the sustained health of your party. Now, when you cast an ultimate from any character, your character actually becomes invincible while they're casting it, which in the case of the Recluse is especially handy, as you can see in this footage where they use it to sort of mitigate all of the aggro that they're receiving.
Although I don't understand why they wouldn't just cut half of the animation off, because, I mean, you're immune anyways, so why not just make it short, quick? Because the enemy was clearly trying to attack him while he was immune. Like, this is gonna be exploited for sure, right? If this game is super difficult or perhaps competitive, then this is gonna be exploited to the bone. The mage is gonna attack, gonna get the aggro on him, then ultimatum or whatever it's called, power, and the aggro is on him or her constantly while he or she is immune, and the others are just like hammering on it with spells or whatever. So I don't know, that seems like a weird choice, but then again, FromSoft does have some weird ideas sometimes, questionable,
where they use it to sort of mitigate all of the aggro that they're receiving. Okay, so the Recluse is the most complicated character to explain. They also even have a passive ability, just like the other characters do, but I don't really know what the Recluse's does. I think it regenerates mana somehow. Anyway, let's talk about the next character, Wilder, who is very much a jack of all trades.
Cool.
Wilder's hookshot ability is on a very short cooldown, and you'll find yourself using it a lot. On small enemies, it pulls them towards you.
Oh, that's cool!
And on larger enemies, it pulls you towards them. One thing worth noting is it's easy to chain the hookshot.
That's so amazing. I love that. Oh, I fucking love that.
Into different attacks, like you can see here. The hookshot can also be aimed manually, hitting the terrain and launching you forward.
Perfect!
Now, Wilder's ultimate also uses his left arm. The grappling hook opens up for an explosive blast. This blast
Hey,
can
that's
be
like the dragon's
charged,
hand.
it can be comboed with your running
Wow.
animation and the hookshot animation, and it stuns enemies. In this case, it actually staggered the enemy, allowing for a critical hit, but
Wow.
on every single enemy and boss I used it against, it also stunned them for a short amount of time, which was this unique animation that
Wow.
allowed my teammates to sort of get a moment to
Wow.
breathe or do extra damage. Wilder's passive ability is a to breathe or do extra damage.
Enemies can now be damaged by teammates during riposte animation. What?
Wilder's passive
broken.
ability is a one-time use effect that allows him to completely negate any instant of damage that would have killed him. You
Wow.
might have just seen it activate there. Basically,
tears.
Wilder does this brief moment
Wow.
of inspired acrobatics and gets a second chance
Very
instead
nice.
of being downed. Next, let's talk about the Guardian. So the Guardian's passive
Haha,
ability is
idiots!
this shield stance, I'm pretty sure, which
Oh.
increases your guarding capabilities at the expense of your movement. Their ability is this whirlwind attack, which seems to get rid of
Yo, does he have wings?
environmental effects like the Death
Oh.
Blight here, but moreover, its main function is to interrupt enemies, so that your teammates can get some damage in.
Nice.
In this way, the Guardian is a really strong melee support character, acting as a
Wow.
tank, but also as a tank sort of support for other characters around you. Their ultimate too is very team-based, with this aerial dive bomb that is excellent for reviving your teammates, because remember, you have to attack your teammates to revive them. This has a secondary effect, I'm pretty sure, of fortifying the teammates that are near the area of effect, giving them increased poise for a short time. I make it sound like the Guardian is purely a support character, but that dive bomb will be excellent for clearing groups of small enemies
I thought
as
so,
well.
I thought so.
And accumulating runes from killing enemies and strengthening all of your characters and leveling
What?
up. Accumulating runes
Yo.
from killing enemies and strengthening all of your characters
Whoa.
and leveling up is a huge part
That
of
is
the game, so
broken.
that kind of group clearing is a really good offensive capability as well. And speaking of offensive capabilities, this is the Duchess, who was the character that I played the most in this demo. Her passive is this sidestep dodge that's similar to the Bloodborne dodge,
Oh, that's a
making
crazy
her
sidestep.
very well suited for anyone who prefers a more aggressive playstyle. Her ability recharges extremely fast, like you can use it every 10 seconds or so, and it's a sort of stopwatch themed ability which takes into account the last few seconds of damage that that enemy has taken and duplicates it. This effect is shown by a white spirit that appears, and
It's a nuke. So if you're very good at working with your teammates and you're maybe in a call or something, you can give the sign, you cast the time duplicate thing, everyone does their crazy DPS, and then the duplicate goes off, duplicates the damage, and then, you know, it's fucking dead. That is crazy cool.
sort
I like
of
that.
shows the damage that is being duplicated. Because you're so aggressive, the Duchess naturally gets a lot of aggro, but this is offset by her dodge, but also by her ultimate, which is a cloaking spell that cloaks you and your nearby allies, making you way less likely to get aggro and just enabling a few different things within the context of the game. For example, you can use it before a fight to get the jump on enemies, you can use it in the middle of the fight to disengage from enemies, or something
what
that's
is this?
especially good is using it to safely...
What is that? It has a fucking sword too? Oh!
resurrect your teammates once they get downed. So when you die in this game, you fall to the ground, you crawl extremely slowly,
Oh wow, that is
and
good.
a little circle appears above your head. This little circle is basically like a health bar that your teammates have to attack and deplete in order to resurrect you. The first time you're downed, you only have one of these purple bars, the second time you have two, and the third time you have three, meaning that every subsequent time you die, it's more risky for your teammates to try and resurrect you because they have to stand there hitting you while avoiding aggro for quite a long time. And with some of these bosses, avoiding aggro is not easy. These bosses will often be a three-part fight where you just have them on you the entire time. So resurrecting your teammates is definitely a tricky thing to pull off sometimes.
Wow.
It's also something that takes the damage you deal
Oh.
into account. So the more damage you do, the faster you'll resurrect your teammates. And so
Cool. Makes
now
sense.
I think we should talk about how to make your character stronger, how to make you do more damage and take more damage and survive.
Sure.
Okay, so the footage they gave us is really quite good. It does a good job of showcasing things that are important to the game. But RP walking like this is not one of them. If you did this in game, your teammates will scream at you like, you don't have time to do this kind of thing. You are evaluating weapons and items and stats as fast as you can because you also have to think about where to go next, and yeah, it's just crazy. So a big part of skill expression is being able to look at a weapon and saying, okay, this suits my build. Okay, I'm going to work towards this, or I'm going to leave this one behind, or I'm going to give this one to a teammate, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And a part of what makes this so much simpler than Elden Ring, but also so much more complex, is that, yes, weapons have been simplified in the sense that they have one number associated with the damage they do, and it's quite clear if they inflict a status effect like Scarlet Rot. It's obvious if you've played the base game.
Well, then let's hope that it fucking works for once, okay? Because there are so many items in Elden Ring and the Souls games that state clearly that it boosts a certain thing, but it doesn't do it. It doesn't do it. So let's hope this game gets it right.
Game which skill is tied to the weapon, but what makes this so much more complex is that every single piece of equipment now comes with passive buffs that affect your character even if the weapon isn't actually in your hand. So you have 6 weapon slots in this game, and you want to fill every single one of them because every weapon will confer a different passive buff that will affect the main weapon that you have in your hand. So say, for example, these 3 armaments drop for you. Which ones would you take with you?
Those 2.
If you're playing a melee character, the Tree Spear might be great because it actually has a really good charge attack and it increases the damage that charge attacks do. So you might want to base your build more around a charge attack playstyle.
No.
Or if you have the Duchess on your team, you might want to grab the Bleed weapon because Bleed seems to synergize really well with the stopwatch ability that duplicates damage. Being able to spot these synergies in an instant and try to make your build on the fly was a really big part of what made this game so fun to me. You should also be evaluating consumables.
But like, that's super simplified. That's a good thing, by the way. It's a good thing, but it's super simplified. So if you can't do it, then you're stupid.
Because you can only carry 4 stacks of any one consumable at any one time, and consumables are really good now. Firebombs are now handheld nukes that can be thrown in midair, and weapon buffs can be applied to any weapon, and they're powerful, so bear that in mind. Another thing that's really important is, ideally, you'll have someone on your team who's really good at quickly evaluating where it will be best to go next. There are a lot of...
that might be something that is more difficult to do. Depending on where the Nightreign is and how it works, I don't know exactly how it works, but if I understood it correctly, then...
At quickly event is...
Yeah, there it is. So here's the Nightreign, and I think it's called Nightreign. Here's the boss that you're about to fight in the end, at the end, I think. And then this circle is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So where do you want to go? Well, you know that you're going to end here somewhere. But maybe you start here, yeah? So where do you want to go first? I would personally always keep somewhere in range of this here. So I don't have to think about the Nightreign, right? You might want to go here or here. But it's a risky business. It is, because by the time you're here, the Nightreign is probably here. Because, like, I'm trying to evaluate how fast the Nightreign travels. Because we saw a couple of clips, and it travels fast, I think. So yeah, I would assume when they get to here, the Nightreign is probably already here somewhere, and then they don't have much time. They have like 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe. And I did read somewhere that they wanted each and every stage or whatever to not be too slow, too long. But don't quote me on that. But anyways, yeah, I would probably stay in here because honestly, most things are already in here. Like these things, whatever those are, I assume they're important. So I would probably go here, and then I would go here, 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 here. Right? This makes sense, I think.
Ideally, you'll have someone on your team who's really good at quickly evaluating where it will be best to go next. There are a lot of important landmarks in this game, and many of them will be recognizable across multiple sessions. For example, you see that black rise off to the right there? So if you solve the puzzle and make your way to the top, you'll get a choice of 3 armaments and or buffs to choose from, which usually is a reward.
Look, here's the Nightreign. Okay.
Reward that's exclusive to when you kill bosses in this game. So basically every landmark has a boss within it, but some have interesting things as well, like we're currently diving down to Kenneth Heights Castle, which showed up a few times for us in our run, and inside this room there was a map on the table, and when you interact with the map, it actually reveals points of interest that usually wouldn't be marked on the map. For example, the locations of these silver scarab beetles would show up, and whenever we defeated one of these, a talisman would drop. Each character has 2 talisman slots, and being able to loot a talisman usually was a really big power spike for one member of our team. And I don't have footage of it, but Kenneth Heights map also revealed the location of merchants on the map, and these merchants were always next to a smithing table, and they always sold one type of smithing stone, which would have allowed you to level up your weapon.
That is huge, by the way.
Is probably a really important mechanic to interact with if you find a merchant, because weapons have different rarities as well, which is something I should have mentioned. There's a common level 1 rarity, there's a rare blue level 3 rarity, there's an epic purple level 9 rarity, and we only found 2 of these, but there is a legendary rarity as well that requires you to be level 12 to equip it. I'll admit there were runs where I was like, man, we didn't get any good loot that run, like we didn't find that many epics or legendaries, and that could be a bit frustrating. However, I suspect that the merchants and their smithing tables will be a way to consistently upgrade a weapon that might be common, but it might have a really good buff that you want. And so I think upgrading weapons could be a way to sort of smooth out the randomness of the game.
I mean, of course you can't get everything, right? But if it is like they say, and you get a map, then you get either a scarab or merchant, and the scarab gives you a talisman, the merchant gives you an upgrade. So either one of those is huge. So that's good.
At the end of every day, you face a major boss. So there were 4 different types we could face in this demo, and they were all very difficult, especially the ones that split into multiple versions of themselves or had multiple ads that you had to deal with, because that required everyone in your team to fulfill a role, and the strategy you use against these bosses will play a huge part in your success. For example, we had someone on our team who was not as familiar with Elden Ring, so they ended up taking on a tanking role where they kind of held up their shield and tried their best to keep aggro rather than dealing damage. And they did a great job of that. That worked really well because they could do something like distract the demi-human queen all by themselves, while me and a more competent player were able to DPS this demi-human swordsman down and then go back and help the tank with the one they were aggroing.
This boss is crazy.
There were strategies for every boss like this, and I really enjoyed coming up with ways to defeat these bosses on the fly and accounting for things these bosses on boss like this, and I really enjoyed coming up with ways to defeat these bosses on the fly and accounting for things that went wrong within the fight. So what you're seeing here is the end of day 1, where they've defeated the major boss, and now they get to claim a reward.
Nice.
Like many rewards in this game, it's a choice between 3 different options.
What?
Sometimes it was a choice between permanent effects and buffs for your character, sometimes
That's
weapons,
crazy.
sometimes both. And again, you have to make a really split-second decision on what is best for you and your team. And then at the end of the day, the Nightreign recedes, and you can go out and explore again. But bear in mind, I'm pretty sure everything you killed on day 1 stays dead on day 2, so it was important to keep progressing around the map and finding new places.
Oh, okay, that makes things a little bit more difficult. For sure. For sure. So depending on how many days you get on each map, let's say 3. So then you're really gonna have to think about it. So that's probably why they wanted to go to the outer of the map first before going in, and then the next day probably the other way around, right? Maybe. Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
To explore.
Me too. Okay.
Eventually, everything culminates in this, your final fight against the chosen Night Lord that you set out to face when you left the Round Table Hold.
That looks
In this
scary
case,
as
our
fuck.
final boss was called Tricephalus, a 3-headed hound that periodically would split into 3 parts, one for each member of your group.
Holy fucking shit.
In this boss fight and boss fights like this that you realize Nightreign really was designed for 3 people. Yes, they probably could have designed enemies so that they scaled with the amount of people in your party, but
That was good.
there's something to be said for not compromising on your boss design around that fact. You know, these bosses feel like they were designed to be taken on with 3 people, and everyone in your party is supposed to have a different role in these fights
that's
as a
pretty good.
result. So, that's Nightreign. I mean, I could go on about all the different little things I've discovered, but I don't have...
I do hope, though, that you're able to play as the same class. Like, all 3 as the same class. That would be so fucking cool. And probably broken, but you know, yeah.
footage for it right now, so I think I'll just give you my thoughts on the game. Obviously, somewhat biased. I run a From Software YouTube channel. You have to take what I say with a grain of salt, but
Of course.
I really did have so much fun playing this. In retrospect, I was a bit wrong about my analysis.
I want to know what his friend thinks about it, because he said that one of his friends that was a tank, that he wasn't really familiar with Elden Ring. So I want to know what he says.
Of the game previously, because previously a big point I mentioned was that, you know, Nightreign will allow you to get immersed in this ever-changing world and take in the scenery and just enjoy like a first playthrough of Elden Ring again. This isn't that. Like, you don't have time to appreciate this world sometimes.
Exactly.
Instead, that feeling is replaced with this rush to explore and get stronger and overcome difficulty, and when your build comes together just right and that allows you to kill even more bosses,
that's not really for me, unfortunately. I'm not a rush guy. I don't like rushing things. I like to take my time. I like to basically I just want to take things in and take my time. So I'm not sure about this one. I mean, I know that a lot of people are going to play it, and a lot of people are going to love it. They're going to love it. And if I tried it, then I would probably love it, but I would not play it as much as Elden Ring, for example. But yeah.
Faster and get even stronger. It's a great feeling. And over the course of our play session, we finally had one run where...
If there's anything that FromSoft does really well, it's that feeling of... You know, it's like that feeling of hopelessness, but also hope. And then once you get through that difficulty, like a boss, you feel the rush. You feel that complete rush. It's so good. It feels so good. So if they captured that in this game, in its entirety, right, then that is quite something. That is quite something.
Everything came together perfectly. We got the items we wanted, we managed to execute our strategies perfectly, and we finally faced off against the final boss and managed to take it down. If you have a friend or two who are into Elden Ring as well, and you think you can all team up and take on this game together...
Wait, so you have to have friends to play it? I'm mainly a single player guy, so I don't have any people that I can play with directly like that. It would be better if it was online for me. That would be much easier for me and for most. Also, just for the lifespan of the game itself, it would be great if it was online. And if it was also single player, it would be great. But yeah, we'll see.
I think it's going to be like one of the best co-op experiences you've ever had. My main concerns with this game come...
I don't believe so. I love Dark Souls, I love Elden Ring, but I don't think this is going to be the best co-op experience in the world or anything. And the reason being, like I said, if there's no online, then it's not going to be that. Because the restriction of needing friends to play with, it's a big deal. I know it's not a big deal for the people that have friends that actually play and play a lot. I know that. There are a lot of people that don't have people that play Elden Ring, and even if they did, they don't play enough. So it's difficult to find time to play. So I am a little bit worried about that. For me personally, I'm not gonna play the game if it's not online or single player. That's just for me, because I don't have anyone that plays. Honestly, I have very few people in my life that play games, for that matter, and none that play Elden Ring. So yeah, unfortunate.
Will this game still be great played with randoms or played by yourself?
Okay, so that indicates, like what he just said, I assume that online is a thing in the game, which is great. Saved.
I'm not as sure of that, and I think come the network test in a couple of days, people aren't going to have that many friends to play with who also got into the network test, and so I think some of the feedback might be more negative because of that, but...
I don't think so. I personally don't think so. Yes, it's going to be more difficult. It's always going to be like that, playing online with randoms. But that's the fucking beauty of it. That is the spark. I love that. Every game is different. You don't know them, so you have to kind of like look at them and watch how they play and try to not mimic, but try to synchronize, right? And they have to do the same. That's the beauty. You just have to feel the vibes, You just have to feel the vibes. If there's a chat, that would be great for people that want to engage with people and be like, yo, I'm gonna do this and this and this. We good? And they're like, yeah, cool, sounds good. But for me personally, I love to just do it intuitively and look at my friends, look at my teammates, and see how they play, and I synchronize myself to their playstyle, or vice versa. Sometimes I feel like they're better at it than me, so then I just play how I want to play, they synchronize to me. That's where the game really shines, I think. But we'll see. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
But as it stands, everyone I know had a blast playing this together, especially side by side in the same room with other people.
That is fun. Yeah,
an unforgettable experience.
I get that.
The other thing I'm curious about is when the full game releases, how random will the maps be? In this demo build of the game, again, we could only play one of
just
two
hitting his
maps,
friend is so funny.
but we've kind of been led to believe that maps will be somewhat procedurally generated and that they'll stitch together different zones. And yeah, the demo had 2 maps seemingly that you could explore, and over the course of our session and over the course of the network test, when people play this, they're going to start figuring out these maps and understanding the best route through, and it will become familiar to them, which I don't think is the intended experience for Nightreign. I suspect in the full game...
I mean, I think it's always going to be somewhat familiar. Honestly, I don't want the game to be too randomized. When the randomization is too great, the game is a mess, right? So we don't want that. So I think they made a good call here. If what he says is true, then yes, good call.
And I hope in the full game, maps are really, really randomized. And
I hope not. I don't want that. No, I would hate to see that. Because I'm not sure what he's thinking, but maybe he's not thinking like me. I'm thinking if it's too randomized, then things are going to be wrong with it. There are going to be instances where enemies are too close to each other, bosses are too close to each other, things like that. And things are just going to be a little bit messed up. I would rather have a little bit more order than too much randomization.
No 2 playthroughs are the same, so that's definitely something I'm going to be looking for in the
Sure.
full release. Anyway, I hope this video helped you understand more about the game. I'll be playing the network test and recording our experiences, and I'm...
Alright. Good video. Great video. Great video. Let's see the comments. What do people think? What do people think? Souls fans will now face the hardest challenge Miyazaki could create. Finding 2 friends. That's the thing. That's the thing, dude. I am super worried about that. Bro really released a network test on Valentine's Day. No, really? Yeah, February 14th to 16th. Nightreign is being sold at full price. Well, it's for $40. So I don't know what they meant by full price. I am guessing that they changed their mind. It's gonna be live service, guys. No, I mean, who knows? Never trust a company. Never. Companies are not your friend. Alright? So just keep that in mind. They might go back on their word, just like almost every single gaming company has done. Just don't get too comfortable. They said full price. It's not full price. There's a reason for that. Okay? Bear that in mind. Valentine's Day. Yeah. Bro. This Miyazaki guy, he's a troll. He's a fucking troll. He knows all of his fucking fan base has no plans on Valentine's Day because we're all fucking maidenless. Oh shit, man. What do you guys think? Are you excited for this game or do you not care? Do you have plans on Valentine's Day or what? We both know you don't have any plans. Anyways, if you like this video, then please subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna be making more videos about Elden Ring, Nightreign in the coming days. During the weekend, probably. Yeah, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Goodbye.